it is of course October, which means Halloween is on its way, so I thought it would be fun to show you how to make some Halloween themed macarons. So I've basically done half of my macaron recipe. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out my recipe video. It's on my channel, I'll put the link up here. And I've got my icing sugar, ground almonds and egg whites in one bowl. I've just whisked up some Italian meringue in my mixer, and I'm going to add some colours, and I've got my baking trays all ready to pipe on. So when you add colour to macarons, you mix the mixture more. So I will show you the best way to add colour. So like I said, I've got my Italian meringue just cooled. And you can also see I've put a towel underneath my mixer. This is because this mixer, the whisk doesn't hit the very bottom of the bowl, so it just makes it that little bit tighter. And this lovely glossy Italian meringue is ready to mix in to the drier mix. So I'm just going to tap off the excess and incorporate the meringue in 3 stages. So I'll start off with a large dollop of meringue. And the reason why we incorporate this in stages is to make sure it's mixed in really evenly. So it can always be a bit tough at this stage. And once the first bit of meringue is mixed in, I'll go in with the second bit. And then the last bit. And you can see the more you add meringue, the looser the mix is getting. So you're just aiming for the perfect consistency. So a couple of things. Lots of you ask me how I get my macarons white. This is how I get them white. I don't add any colour. They're naturally bright and white. This method, when you use the Italian meringue, really keeps its whiteness. So if you want white macarons, you don't need to start adding whitening powders or anything. So I've mixed it, but I haven't mixed it to the stage I want it because I'm adding the colour. I have 2 separate bowls here, and what I'm going to do is going to keep some white and colour some orange and some black, obviously, because it's Halloween. So I'm going to just take a little bit of the mixture and place it in the bowl. Now, like I said, I haven't mixed this properly. I mean, everything's incorporated, like there's no big pieces of meringue left, but I'm going to be mixing the colour in. So if you over-mix a macaron batter, let's say, it becomes too loose. So that's when you have to be careful. So you don't want to over-mix, which is why I'm separating the mixture now. Now I'm going to focus on the white and just get that to the right consistency. And what you're looking for is dropping consistency. So it is still a bit slow, so I'm going to mix it a few more times. And what you're doing when you're mixing, you are slowly releasing the oils from the nuts, which is why if you overbeat it, too much oil is released. So you just want to do it a couple more times by hand and the mixture will become looser. So that is looser. Now you do want to work quickly because you don't want to leave the other bowls too long because otherwise they start skinning. So I'm going to put this into a piping bag. So what I'm going to do is twist both ends so it's kind of airtight in there and then leave that to the side so I know that is covered and that won't skin. And I have some gel food colouring here and I'm just going to put a little bit of orange into one and some black into another. Now just so you know, black will always be grey unless you get a really intense food colouring, which usually comes in powder form. They scare me a bit, so I'd rather grey, but it's up to you. Just going to mix the colour in. And you've obviously got the added gel in there. So obviously you run the risk of adding too much colour and then it really affects the consistency of the mix. So you do have to kind of balance how much colour you're putting in, how much mixing you're doing until you get the right consistency. But I think this is there and it's a really nice colour too. So I'm just going to fill a piping bag with a smaller round nozzle. So the white went into quite a large round one, but I'm going to do slightly detailed shapes with the orange. So this is a number 12 round nozzle. Same again, twist both ends and leave them to the side. And finally, the black. So I may have explained this in my other tutorial, that you can colour a whole batch. So you would just put it straight into the mix as you're mixing the meringue through. But I like separating it because I don't want 50 orange or 50 black. I want 10 orange and maybe 12 black and some pink and some yellow. And it just saves time by separating them into separate bowls and colouring them separately. All you need to watch out for is that you're not over mixing the macaron mix. So I've got the black, orange and white all ready, and I've also got some baking trays. Now I'm going to do a selection of eyeballs, ghosts, pumpkins, spiders, mummies, all sorts of Halloween shapes. But for the purposes of the video, so you can actually see how I'm piping them, I'm going to bring the camera forward and do close-ups. So I have a lined tray here, and I've got my magnets to keep the paper down. If you don't have magnets, you can put a little of the macaron mix underneath the paper and stick the paper down. Now I'm going to start off with just some plain circles, and we'll decorate them after I've piped them. So I've got the white mix here, and I'm just going to make sure that the air bubbles won't come through by flattening the bag. And just like my normal macarons, I'm going to pipe 2-pound size circles, finishing them off with a little flick, just so they stay nice and flat, and I'm going to pipe them in alternate spaces. When I do the flick, I stop applying pressure. I stop and then flick off. You can use a template or a macaron mat. I'm quite used to piping them, so I like to go freehand. Once I'm done, I'm going to give them a good bashing. So against the surface. And this releases the air bubbles and makes them a lot flatter as well. Now if you can still see any air bubbles, you can get a little toothpick and pop them. But these are looking nice and flat, so I'm going to leave them on the side for about 20 minutes to skin. So I'm going to do the same shape with the black. Again, just some plain circles. And also with the orange. Now the orange does have a smaller tip, so it requires a little more control to get a perfect circle. And once again, bash the tray. So now I'm going to pipe shaped macarons, and the reason why I'm doing this on a separate tray is because they're going to be slightly bigger and therefore need a longer time to cook than the smaller circles. I'm going to start off by piping some ghosts. So I'm going to use the white and start off with a circle and then just slowly drag it down and go slightly to the right and lift off. So you kind of get an awkward teardrop. So once again, start off with a circle and then drag it down. And now because we're going to sandwich them, we're going to do the same action but going to the left. They're not going to be identical because you've obviously changed the direction, but once you put the filling in between, it is a little bit more forgiving and you can kind of hide. If you do want to slightly change the shape, while the macaron mix is wet, you can gently run your finger along the side and just neaten up the edge. Can't do that once they've skinned, so if you do want to change it, you have to do it now. Now I'm going to do some pumpkins with the orange, which is why I needed the smaller nozzle, and do one line curved, then another line, and then make that symmetrical. So actually I'm going to do it in an easier way. Start off with like an 11, very close together, And now on either side, you do a larger, slightly rounded line. Like that. Give the tray a bash. And there you have some shaped macarons. And the last shape I'm going to pipe out is a spider. So I'm going to start with a smaller circle and then a large one right next to it. So you kind of get a head and a body. Similar to how you would pipe snowmen, but we're not in the season yet. Smaller circle, larger circle. So you've got these little spider bodies. And then I'm going to leave all the macarons to skin, and that should take about 20 minutes. So I've left the macarons to skin, and I've also set my oven at 135 degrees Celsius to preheat. And what I've done is made a batch of my royal icing, which is just icing, sugar and egg white whisked together, and divided it into some colours. Some colours are going to be used for after the macarons have been made, but others I want to create little details, let them dry and then stick them into the macarons. So I'm going to start off with the black and create some spider's legs. So if you watched my honey cake recipe from a couple of weeks ago, you saw that I created some royal icing decorations and left them overnight. Now, the longer you leave royal icing decorations, the better, because they're completely set. But the macarons aren't going to be ready for a couple of hours, so I'm going to pipe these out now. So I'm going to start with the spider's legs, and rather than piping onto a flat piece of acetate, I've actually bent one in half to get a bent shape. Now, I've never actually done this before, so it may not work, but if it does, the spiders are going to have little bent legs like they would do in a cartoon. So all I'm going to do is pipe over the bend in the acetate to create a little spidery leg. So I've piped quite a few legs. Spiders have 8 legs, so they may only fill about 3, but I'm going to also pipe some straight ones just in case the bend doesn't work and breaks. So I'll just pipe some on the flat surface. And I'm going to leave that to the side to air dry. So also with the black, I'm going to create some bat wings, which are going to fit inside the plain round black macarons. So I'm going to make 2 wings separately. And again, it's probably easier using a stencil, but I like making my life difficult. So they're probably not the best bat wings that you've ever seen, but I'm going to leave them to dry and hope for the best anyway. And the other bit of decoration that I'm going to pipe now is the stalk for the pumpkin, which is usually brown, but for some reason in cartoons they're green. And I thought a pop of colour would be quite nice, so I'm doing some green stalks. I'm basically making a small triangle shape. So I've got the royal icing decorations drying, and these macarons are nicely skinned because there's no mix coming onto my finger when I touch them. So I'm going to cook them for about 15 minutes and rotate them halfway through cooking. So my macarons turned out perfectly, and the shapes really kept as well. You can especially see it on the pumpkin ones that you actually get the ridges. So now it's time to decorate them. I have prepared a batch of my French buttercream, and I've also got a piping bag of jam, which I'm going to fill the inside of some of them. So when you bite through, then the jam oozes out, and obviously it kind of resembles blood because it's Halloween and spooky. And I've also got some chocolate ganache, which I'm going to fill the darker macarons with. So I've got my royal icing at the ready. The decorations are still drying. I'm going to put them in last minute. If they start breaking, I might just have to put them in later on, but I will include it in the video either way. So let's get decorating. So before I fill the macarons, I've paired them up into the similar sizes. Now, if this happens to your macaron where it kind of doesn't have that smooth bottom, it means it was slightly undercooked, or it needed to be left longer on the tray before you took it off. So to fill the darker macarons, I have a chocolate ganache here. I'm going to just start with the more simple shapes down here, which is the circles. So decent amounts of ganache piped onto each one. And then sandwich them together. Squeeze it until the filling reaches the edge. I've decided to fill them first and then decorate over the top because I don't want to start handling the macarons once they're decorated in case I smudge any of the decorations. So for the spider shapes up here, I'm going to do a smaller blob of ganache and then a large one where the body is. And squeeze them together. For the pumpkins, I thought it'd be nice to have an inside filling of ganache. So I'll do a ring of the vanilla buttercream, fill the middle with chocolate, and then sandwich them together. So you can only see the vanilla on the outside, but there's a nice chocolatey surprise on the inside. For the ghosts, I'm just going to go in with some plain vanilla, following the shape of the ghost. Sandwiching it together. If any filling spills out the sides because of the shape, you could just wipe it away with your finger. And then finally, for the circles, I'm going to do a ring of the white buttercream on one half. And then I'm going to pipe some raspberry jam in the middle for that jam surprise when you bite into it. I find raspberry jam a lot looser than other jams, so it's really going to ooze out. You just have to be careful when you sandwich these together that you're not squashing it too much. So the only thing left now is the final decorations on top, but just before I do that, I like to set this in the fridge for 5 to 10 minutes, just to set the buttercream a bit firmer, otherwise it can slide around a bit. Right, the filling is nice and firm, so now I can decorate the final details with the royal icing. Now I've just had a check with my little decorations that I made earlier. The pumpkin stalks are actually coming off in one piece. The spider legs, one of them came off perfectly, and I'm not sure if you can see, but it's actually, oh no, I just dropped it. It didn't break. It just broke. Great, but it was in one piece. I just think they need to dry a bit longer. So I am going to put them on in a few hours. But in the meantime, oh, the same with the bat wings. And in the meantime, I'm going to decorate the smaller details such as the eyes and little faces on all of them close up. But I'm going to start with the pumpkins so I can add the stalks. So what I'm going to do is draw on a pumpkin face using the black royal icing. I haven't used a nozzle, I've just cut the hole really small. But you obviously can do if you want to be more precise. One happy pumpkin. Then carefully I'm just going to take off one of the stalks. I can tell they're not 100% dry because they are still sticky underneath, but they're dry enough to pick up. Just going to slot it in where the buttercream is. How cute is he? Pumpkin's done. If your piping bag is getting dry, just take a little cloth and just take out the very end because the royal icing dries really quickly. And now for the ghosts, I'm just going to pipe on some cute little faces. They're going to be cute ghosts. And there are the ghosts. Whilst I still have the black icing, I'm going to do a couple of Nightmare Before Christmas faces. So I want to create some mummies, and in order to do that I'm going to draw on the ice first and let them set for a bit. So I'm just going to do a couple of blobs of white icing and then some black. And I'm just going to leave them to set on the side to harden slightly. Now I'm going to make some eyeballs. I'm going to do a large white circle. Then I'm going to use the green. And then the black for the very center. And then using the red, I'm going to create some veins coming out of the eyes. And don't they just look lovely? Delicious. So even though the bat wings are setting, I'm still going to put some eyes on these in preparation. I think cartoon eyes make everything look just that bit cuter. You can kind of leave them like this, but I'm going to wait for the bat wings to set. And the same for the spiders. And the straight legs are ready. So I'm just going to show you how to place them in if you were using the straight. So you're using the filling inside to stick the royal icing decorations to. Cute little spider with legs. So back to the mummies. There's no rule for this. I'm just going to go over with some stripes of white. And there you go. So there we have some ridiculously cute Halloween macarons. Now I always tend to go down the kind of cute cartoony style, but you can stylize them however you like. Make them as gruesome as you like, it's Halloween. The two main things to remember is to shape the macarons, and you can use a template, and then to make the royal icing for the decorations on top. Now whether you're letting them dry or directly icing them, I find it the best way to add a theme to macarons. If you've got any other suggestions of videos or anything that you want to see me make, then write in the comments below, and in the meantime, have a happy Halloween and see you next time.